Hey everyone, welcome to the Leader's Edge. I'm your host, Steve Steele, and today we're diving into some insights and principles that will supercharge your leadership and ignite your personal growth. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a leader navigating change or a seasoned pro, this show is tailor-made for you. Each episode is packed with practical strategies designed to elevate your mindset and apply your leadership impact. So get ready for actionable tips that can put you into practice immediately. I have a huge shout out to all of our amazing listeners. Thank you for your unwavering support. So let's embark on this journey together and unlock your true potential. Now, today I'm out of studio and I'm coming to you remotely, and I'm excited to share 3 core strategies that will empower you to make that game-changing leap back from any setback or adversity you're facing in life or in business right now. So let's get started and talk about that impact. But let me just kind of start out a little bit about my own story so that you can understand kind of where I'm coming from. I don't think I've ever shared this on air before. So I want to share this with you and tell you a little bit about me. I grew up as a child with my dad being in the military. And so I was always called a military brat. And so I think some of you probably can relate to that. If you've been in the military before, you understand where I'm coming from. One of the things that we did being in the military is we traveled all over the country. I mean, from one base to the next base, about every year and a half, 2 years or so, we would be traveling to another base and living in another place. And oftentimes doing that, we were able to really make a lot of good friends. We would have friends and then we'd have to leave and make more friends and leave and so on and so on. And so that was, as a kid growing up, really to have a lot of close friends in your life. I really didn't have that. But what I did have was an amazing dad. And what dad did for me and my brother was he was able to take the times that we were traveling back and forth across the country, and he was able to teach us a little bit about the United States history and the Civil War. One of the things that we did is we stopped at every Civil War battlefield that was really in the country, crisscrossing the country. And today being Lincoln's birthday, I just thought that, wow, that kind of coincides together of my dad taking us to see those Civil War battle sites. And we would go to those battlefields and we would imagine exactly what we were doing. And oftentimes they had reenactments, and it was really, really cool as a child. And my dad teaching us the history of the United States in the Civil War. He was an amazing dad, and I loved him so much. But what made him so amazing in my life was actually when I went to college. Now, dad and mom really wanted me to spend a lot of time searching at what I was going to do. And they had ideas what I wanted to do, but their ideas of what they wanted me to do and my ideas what I wanted to do just really didn't coincide much. So dad and mom wanted me to go into some type of job where I'd have aviation. And they even considered the military, but I didn't want to go to military, because I already spent all my life in the military as a kid. So I didn't want to go in the military. But they talked about aviation and wanted me to be go into aviation sometime. Now, I liked airplanes and I liked flying them. And as a kid, I built lots of models of airplanes, but I wasn't sure I really wanted to go and work on airplanes or I wanted to go into aviation of any kind. But because they were paying the bills and because they wanted me to go to college, I went my first semester and started to study aviation and took the basics to aviation and different things like that. And I went the first semester and I couldn't do it. It was horrible. I could not do that at all. It wasn't something I wanted to do. And it was something, and so that into that semester, I changed my major to what I wanted to do. Now I had to go home at the end of the semester and I had to tell dad and mom that I changed my major. That was huge. Because what I wanted to do, what they wanted me to do was 2 worlds apart. What I wanted to do was I wanted to become a musician. And I knew, and they knew, that there wasn't a lot of money in being a musician. But I had to go home and tell them. So I go home and I'm there and I come in the house and I said, Mom, Dad, I really need to talk to you. I need to share with you something. And they were looked at a little bit concerned of their face. You know, they didn't have any idea. So we went into the living room and had the family talk, you know, where you sit on the couch and, you know, they had the family talk. I told Dad, and of course, Mom was sitting on the couch next to me, and Dad was standing right there in front of me in his military way with his arms crossed. And he said to me, he said, "What's wrong, Steve? What's going on?" I said, "Dad, I have to tell you something." And a concern came across his face. I said, "Dad, I don't want to be in aviation. I want to be a musician. And I'm even thinking about going into ministry to do that." And he looked at me with his stern look for about 2 minutes. felt like an hour, but it was just a few seconds, really. And he grabbed my mom's hand, took her off the couch, and they walked into the kitchen. And I'm like sitting on the couch by myself, and I'm freaked out. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about in the kitchen, but they were talking in the kitchen. It seemed like an hour they were there, but they were only there maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And they come back out, and Dad looks at me, puts his hands in his pockets, kind of pacing a little bit. And Mom sitting on the couch, and she's kind of crying. Tears are coming down her eye. And he said something to me I'll never forget. He said to me, he said, "Steve," he said, "I didn't spend 20 years of my life in the military defending this country so that you could not have the choice to do what you want in your life." He said, "But I ask you one thing, just one thing. Please do this for me." I looked at him. I said, "Dad, whatever you ask, absolutely, whatever." And this is what he said, and this is what changed my life. He said, "Jump as high as you can, and I will forever be your net." My life changed at that moment. My life changed at that moment. So I did. I went back to school. I studied music, and I did go into ministry. Now, one of the crazy things about ministry is that you often go into the field of ministry and you go as a musician, but you might have other jobs in a church that you have to do. And one of the other jobs in the church that I had to do was I had to be a youth pastor at the same time. And I loved youth, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. But I'm going to bring up some slides here as I begin to talk and share some things with you. And I'm going to share actually 3 core strategies of how soaring from really impossible situations in your life, because I'm going to share a story here with you in a second. When you're in a situation, oftentimes maybe in your business, and you have setback and you have adversity, I'm going to share with you 3 core strategies to help you move from impossibility to possibility. So let me just kind of share with you a little bit about my story when I became the youth pastor and became a church. So at a church, I was responsible for taking kids to youth camp. And that was a real thing that I had to do. I had to plan it. I had to organize it, had to get it all together. So I organized it big. I decided what we're going to do is we're going to go be here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we're going to travel to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we're going to travel in a bus, an old school bus, about 1978 model. And we're going to go up there and have a great time for a week in the cool mountains of the Rockies. That was what I wanted to do. It was so cool. I was excited about that. So we all gathered in the bus. We left that day and we traveled all night, and we were in Colorado, and we'd stopped for gas to bus up. Everything was going perfect. Everybody was having a blast. Everything was going great. And so we stopped for gas. All the kids got out, stretched their arms and their legs, went and got some treats, got some stuff, got back in the bus, and we started back out, full tank of gas, and we started back out. And a few miles down the road from that stop, we had a very tragic situation happen. The bus was traveling down the highway about 50 or 55 miles an hour. It wasn't going fast. And the bus took a quick turn to the right and flipped on its side. And it slid down the highway of about 150 to 155, 56 yards, something like that. And not on top of that, it caught on fire. So now I have a bus laying on its side, sliding down a highway on fire. I found myself, when I picked myself up out of the stairwell, I didn't know even how I got there, but I found myself in the stairwell and picked myself up, pushed a bunch of stuff off me. And I'm like in a fog of what's actually going on here. What is actually taking place? What is actually going on here? So I crawl my way out of the front of the bus from the windshield area. And so I looked around, and that's when I actually saw the fire and the flames that started up at the engine. And so I quickly ran around to the back of the bus. And when I got to the back of the bus, there was total chaos. And I'm going to share with you in a few minutes what that was like and a little bit of what took place. But first, I want to show you a few things about what it is as far as perspective is. So here's oftentimes when we get overwhelmed, and I will tell you, in that moment, I was extremely overwhelmed. Oftentimes when we get in an overwhelmed situation, we have what is called understanding the limits of silo mentality. All of a sudden you get wrapped in your own head and things begin to happen. Entrepreneurs do this oftentimes when they have struggles in their business. Business leaders do that oftentimes when they have struggles with their teams. They get the understanding of silo mentality, recognizing that problems often feel unresolvable due to the really narrow viewpoints that we have. You know, you understand that we actually think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day in our head. And when we thought those thoughts in our head, about 80% of those thoughts are negative. And 90% of those thoughts are the thoughts that we thought the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. And we often wonder why we get ourselves into a place where we're stuck, because we've been thinking the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So we get that silo mentality of, how do I get out of this problem? How do I got this issue with my business, or I got this issue with what's going on in my life. Maybe it's my relationships. Maybe it's money issues, whatever it is. You get in this silo mentality, and all you do is think about that, roll it around your head, and roll it around your head, and roll it around your head. What are some of the important things about having the right perspectives? The importance of seeking help to gain new insights. And that's done often through collaboration. Now I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't remember the exact quote, but Einstein said this: you cannot solve a problem with the same mind you created it with. What does that mean? Well, through collaboration, you can get more thoughts about what you need to do. You can get different ideas. Things begin to happen. Things begin to open up. But oftentimes we get stuck and we want to try to figure it out ourselves, and we can't. So we have to really turn to other people sometimes to help us see different viewpoints, see different ways of getting something done. It doesn't mean you have to accept every viewpoint that everybody says, but you get an idea of different things you have to do. Seeking that help, seeking that guidance, especially through people who have done it before and have walked those steps before. But oftentimes we don't. We get stuck because we're stuck in what we think is right and what we need to do. But I'm going to say to you that through collaboration, you can seek the help of other people. Because you cannot solve that problem with the same mind you created that problem with. It just cannot happen. Now, I will tell you something. This path will not be easy. It will require everything false in you to die, really. It will stretch your nervous system. It will shake your identity. It will burn your comfort zone to ash, because you cannot solve it with the same problem you created it with. It just doesn't work that way. Now, in perspective, I want you to look at this. Look at the picture that's on there on the right. What do you see? Well, you see a lady there. She looks like she may be pregnant, leaning up against a tree. But if I change the perspective and I get a new idea, now what do you see? You see a face. You see somebody who's looking out at you with two eyes, nose, and mouth. And all we did was flip the picture around. It just gave us a different perspective of it. It didn't change the whole fact that we didn't change the picture. We just turned it upside down. So that's a key thing that we need to do to understand how to get out of that silo mentality, is really create a collaboration of new ideas that you can help solve the problem. But if you can, let me just tell you that I heard Ed Milet say this, and I absolutely love it. If you can outlast the temporary and collaborate with others, gain perspective, you will find solutions. But you have to outlast the temporary, that temporary minute of just being overwhelmed. Go collaborate with people. Go gain some perspective. Find some solutions. Because if you do that, you will be able to come up with new ideas. New things will begin to happen. Things will begin to take place. You can try a new tactic, a new way of getting where you need to go. So important. Because what happens is that perspective is power. And so how do you gain that perspective? Oftentimes when we're walking through this whole thing and you say, well, I am talking to people. I am getting that understanding. I am trying to collaborate, but I still don't see the clarity of it yet. Well, how do you get clarity? How does a person get clarity? When I was teaching my kids to drive, one of the things I taught them was when you get into a big thick fog bank and you're driving, and you will, it happens to all of us. When you get into that kind of fog bank and you will begin to try to figure, oh my gosh, I can't see ahead of me. Don't turn on your high beams because that just thickens things. That makes things worse. How do you get clarity? Well, you might have to slow down a little bit. Listen to some of the things that people have told you and go the next 10 feet. Clarity on a work project. Gaining clarity, maybe needing the next 10 feet. That's how you do it. And it's the next 10 feet after that, and the next 10 feet after that. And as you gain more footage moving forward, clarity begins to open up. We're going to take a quick break right now, but after we come back, we're going to talk about the second part of it called making a new decision. So we'll be right back to the Leader's Edge. Are you ready to elevate your organization with a team of transformational leaders? Do you want to attract and nurture top talent while enhancing communication and productivity across generations? Hi, I'm Steve Steele, co-host of The Leader's Edge, and your coach with the Maxwell Leadership Team. My program equips leaders with essential skills and resources to lead, coach, and communicate effectively, ensuring everyone thrives. With tailored insights and proven strategies, I'm here to help your entire organization succeed. So reach out today at growthinleadership@gmail.com or visit johncmaxwellgroup.com/Steve Steele. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Leader's Edge. I'm your host, Steve Steele. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. We're talking today about 3 core strategies to help you gain clarity on setback and adversity. And we talked about the first one being gaining perspective and using collaboration to get new ideas and new solutions. Number 2, next thing you need to do is you need to make a new decision. Now you must realize that that believing what you did before was simply a decision, and that any evidence you have for that fact that it may be true is only because unconsciously you adopted the belief from someone else, usually your parents, life experiences, or traumas that happen in your life. And trust me, I understand about traumas. We're going to get back into that in just a minute. But oftentimes, we form a belief about something. We form a belief about our business that this won't happen because of this situation, or we can't do this because of that situation, or our relationship is, I'll never know if I'm going to have the right relationship I need to have because all the different things that may take place. Those are all beliefs that you have in your life. They're called limiting beliefs, and they're beliefs that you have in your life based on your personality, by your people who brought you up, maybe your program, maybe it's your grandparents, or like I said before, some life experience or traumas. But what you have to do when you're making a new decision, going into gaining a perspective, and now you have to make a new decision. When making a new decision, seek evidence to support that belief while consistently ignoring any other evidence to the opposite of it. With this understanding, you can really give yourself some permission to make that new decision. If the limiting belief isn't aligned with what you want, then it's just good sense that the new decision should be something from some form of the opposite of your limiting belief. So if you think that, let's just give you an example. Let's just say that maybe you think that, I'm not worth it. I just don't think I can do it. I'm just not worth it. Well, that's not a true statement. You are worthy of it. You're worthy by God Himself. You're worthy to other people. You are worthy. That's just it. So the opposite of that would be, I am worthy. So when you're faced with a situation, especially in business or whatever that situation, you need to make a new decision. Seek for evidence for that. Now, honestly, if that limiting belief, like I said, isn't really aligned with what you want and what you want to do, then it's just a real good sense that the new decision you're going to make is something from the opposite of that limiting belief. So if you believe you're not able to accomplish this, or you're not able, that's not true. You can accomplish that. That's the opposite of the limiting belief. You can accomplish it. In decisions, we make all kinds of decisions. We make decisions that are alternate decisions. They're all kind of decisions that are complex. All kind of different things that we have to work through. But think of that form of that, in some form of that limiting belief you have as being the opposite of that, because that's exactly where it's going to lead to. Now, you have to kind of challenge and reframe your limiting beliefs as well. Now, here's what I want you to understand. This is something that I had to really learn, and I really had to understand. The way I believed about something was simply a decision that I made sometime in the past, sometime earlier. Beliefs are really often unconscious decisions influenced by some kind of external sources, such as our parents or our grandparents, as we said before. And so we have to accumulate evidence that supports these beliefs while ignoring the contradictory evidence of them. So how do you recognize limiting belief? Well, limiting beliefs can impede personal growth and fulfillment. Acknowledging the belief is crucial for initiating change. So all the way you're ever going to change is you have to put a understanding of how to get past a limiting belief to make a new decision. It's very, very possible to make decisions and still have limiting beliefs, but you're going to end up with the same thing you had in the past over and over and over. So making a new decision, you have to change the way that you believed about them. Understand this, really. Beliefs are only one thing. They're a decision. They're a decision that you've made, that you believe that you made in the past. Can you change a decision? Well, of course you can. You can change the way you feel about something, because John Maxwell said, and I remember this in a book he wrote, if you can change the way you think, you can change the way you feel. And I absolutely 100% believe that. So if you believe that you can't do it, well, Henry Ford said, if the man who can't, the man who can are both right. If you don't believe you can make it, then you won't. But if you change that belief and say, yes, it's possible, and through collaboration, through that new perspective and making a new decision on where I want to go with it, you can change the way you feel about it. You can change the limiting belief that's causing you to feel the way you're feeling. Individuals must be willing to make new decisions that align to their true desires. So you have to find out what that true desire is. Once you understand what that really is and what you really want, you have to make a new decision that aligns with that desire. Change is possible. Even when the evidence appears to contradict new beliefs, this represents a crucial turning point. It really does. You can actually change the way you feel. So beliefs as new decisions. Your new decisions becomes your new belief. So let me give you some examples. If life is unfair, that's a limiting belief, because life is fair. If things never work out for me, then things always work out for me. If you're afraid you might fail, then change your thinking. It's possible to fail. If you're worried about making the right or wrong decision, then there's no such thing as a right or wrong decision. If you constantly think that, you have to think the opposite of what is actually limiting your thinking. There's not enough time to get it all done. Then you think there's plenty of time to get it all done. These are perfectly powerful and appropriate new decisions made. Now, let me kind of take you back a little bit. So let's go back to the bus story. When I got back to the end of the bus, there was total chaos everywhere. I mean, there was gasoline smell. There was fire. There was smoke. There was people screaming. There was all over the highway. It was the most chaotic thing you can ever imagine at that moment. And understanding, I'm at this time, I'm not knowing who lived or died. I'm not knowing what's going on. I'm in my own silo mentality, right? I gathered a few people at the back of the bus, and we all decided we're going to start pulling kids off left and right. So we just started pulling kids off left and right out of the back of the bus, and we're moving as quick as we can. Kids are just pouring out. And when we think we have everybody out, we don't actually know, because if you understand, when you have a bus laying on its side and it's full of people and it's full of bus cushions and luggage and blankets and everything you can imagine, when it's laying on its side, everything is thrown this was thrown on the right side. Everything was thrown to the right side of the bus. So you can just imagine how chaotic this was, and people trying to get out, and the bus being on fire at the same time. This is an older picture that was taken just a few minutes after the bus accident happened. And this is what we were trying to pull kids out of. When we thought we had everybody out, I looked down the bus, and at the very front of the bus, this little head popped up. And I'm thinking, who's that? What is that? And this person, and so I recognized it was an individual. And I called out their name. So the collaboration of getting people to understand, to help me get people off the bus, and then calling out this person's name, to have them come forward, come to me. And they started up, and they got 2 feet away, and they took about 2 steps and collapsed. And I'll never forget it. Immediately, it came across in my mind, well, you got to go get the person out. You just have to get them out. You have to move quickly, and you have to get the person out. So I went in, and you can call that blind faith. You can call that whatever it is. I promise you, it was just a moment of no hesitation, just going to do the right thing. So I stepped inside that bus, and I remember walking along the edge of the ceiling of the bus and looking down and seeing the windows. Fortunately, they were all closed because it was a very cool Colorado morning. It was all closed. Fortunately, seeing that. And when I was walking down that corridor on that ceiling, looking at those windows, underneath those windows were red, yellow, blue flames. I knew there was very little time, because this was gasoline that was actually leaking and pouring up underneath the bus. So I pushed up out of the way. I make my way. Finally, after several seconds, I get to the front of the bus, and I grab this person, and they were kind of just knocked silly, kind of, because they had, something hit them in the head or something when the bus turned over, and they were kind of hit silly. And so in that process, grabbing them, I just yanked them and just started pulling them over everything. I didn't care how. My only one goal was to get out of the bus as quickly as possible. That was the one goal I had set. Fortunately, we got to the end of the bus. I was able to get the person out, got out of the bus, crawled out, and within 4 or 5 seconds, the bus just went up like a match. And this is a little more clarity of what I saw. That's what I experienced. It gives you a little different perspective as well. The first picture was a little grainy, old, but this one's more clear. And I will tell you, that moment, life changed for me. It was something I didn't know I was going to have to face, something I had to go through. As many of you have had similar situations in your life. But here's the one thing I have to tell you. I had to actually believe that I could do it. There was a time there for a second when I had to believe. So the third thing I want to share with is you have to actually believe that you can do it, that you can move forward, that you can do whatever you need to do. There has to be a belief. You have to feel it. It has to be in your bones. You have to believe that you can actually accomplish what you're going to accomplish. And I believed it. There wasn't a second there that I didn't believe I could make it. There were those moments of moving toward that bus and seeing that fire that caused some fear, but kept moving forward, kept going towards the goal, getting the clarity of pushing things out of the way, each step at a time, finally reaching that person, pulling them out, which gave me great relief when I got to that point. I had reached that goal, and it gave me a different perspective. So there's five primary drivers that I want you to understand for belief. So what you believe, you think. And what you think, you feel. And what you feel, you act upon. How you act determines your results, or perhaps the lack thereof. Your results always, 100% of the time, reinforce the original belief. So during that time, I had to understand that either I was going to accomplish it, I was going to make it happen, but will the fact that I was going to believe that it was going to happen, go forward with the act, move forward with what I was going to do, and the result would be this very same thing that I believed it would happen. I was able to get the person out. So what you believe, you think. What you think, you feel. You have to feel it. What you feel, you act upon. And how you act determines your results. And your results always, 100% of the time, reinforce the original belief that you had in yourself. And that's what I want you to understand. Change your belief, and you can change your outcome. Change your belief, and you can change your outcome. So I want to just do a little exercise with you, and I want you to just think about this in your head, okay? Know that if we were in an auditorium, I would actually do this exercise with you if I was speaking, and I would share with you what this is about. I think you can imagine this, so think this through with me as we go through it. Imagine with me that you're in a room, and there's 200 people or 300 or 400 people in the room, and you grab a partner. And you face each other and you look at each other. When you look at each other, you're kind of getting to know each other. You're kind of noticing each other, what each other's wearing and what each other is about, and a little bit about their personality. And then I ask you to turn around back to back. And then I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I want you to change 33 things about yourself. And I'm going to give you 5 seconds. So you could pull out your pocket. You could take off your belt. You could roll up your sleeves. You can maybe pull your pocket out of your pants or something like. Change something that you're what you look like. Take off your glasses, whatever it is, and then turn back around. Make those 33 changes. You're going to look at me. You're going to say, "That's absolutely impossible. That's crazy. You can't do that. I can't make 33 changes just like that. It just doesn't happen." Just okay. And I understand you can't really. That's kind of a big, overwhelming task to do in about 5 seconds. But I'm going to give you 5 seconds more, and I want you to do this. I want you to change one thing. So you make that change. You turn back around and you talk to each other, and you notice what each other's changed. Now I want to ask you to turn around again and make one more change about yourself. And maybe you roll up your sleeves, or you take off your glasses, or whatever the case may be. And you flip back around and you notice that change. Well, I think you understand where I'm getting to. And I'm not going to bore you with taking through 33 steps. But here's what I want you to understand. You can't see step 33 from step 1, but or step 0. You can see step 1 and step 2, but you might not be able to see step 33. So the whole point of this exercise is to understand that you Take those steps, those changes, one step at a time. And that's how clarity becomes in your life. Clarity becomes your life at one step at a time, taking the next 10 feet, however you want to look at it. But you could make 33 changes about yourself if you did it 33 times. And then you say, oh my gosh, at the end of that, we did it. We made 33 changes. Yes, you reached your goal, but you did it one step at a time. And that's how life works. It works at one step at a time. So you can unleash the power of perspective, break free from silo mentality, and see how your circles of people and path changes, your reflection of who you become and what you become. You can actually make that new decision and believe in that new decision that you make. And when you do that, and then you believe it, you embrace the setbacks. Those become as fuel for greatness and unlock the beliefs that really elevate you to your highest potential by taking one step at a time. But I want to tell you something. To make those changes takes work. And it's not something that somebody can do for you. If you're facing adversity, if you're facing setback, it does take work. So I often ask the question to people that I talk to, people I coach, or people when I'm speaking. I ask this question: could it be that the magic that you're looking for in your life is in the work you are avoiding? Could it be the magic that you're looking for is in the work that you are avoiding? Now, let me just tell you something. They often say that after the bus accident was over, and by the way, we lost no life. We had just some very tiny injuries, and I thank God for that every day. But I will tell you this. People will say, oh, Mr. Steele, you're a hero. You went in there and you got those. And they called me Pastor Steve then. And it was Pastor Steve. You went and got that person. And I want to tell you something. There was no being a hero about it. The reason why is because I was the bus driver. So my question to you is, who is the bus driver in your life? Who's driving your bus? And what does that look like? Are you doing the work that you need to do to make the changes in your life, to get new perspective, to make new decisions, and to believe that you can actually accomplish those things? Who is that bus driver in your life? Well, thank you so much for today. I greatly appreciate it. And just as a reminder, you can find The Leader's Edge on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you find value in these conversations, please subscribe or follow to stay connected with me. I want to say thank you to all of our listeners and friends, because without you, The Leader's Edge would not be possible. And I'm so grateful, so grateful to have you here, and so excited to connect with you next time. So from everyone, from the studios, from The Leader's Edge, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.